what we're going to do is we're going to set up the entire Ford Lightning overlanding system that I've built. Not everything's done, but I just figured let's give a little glimpse of what we're aiming for here. We'll do a little tour of the setup, what we have so far, why this truck is amazing for overlanding, for work, pretty much for anything you need to do. And the goal here for this particular setup was to make it as fast as possible. Like many of you guys, I'm very busy. I can't have a dedicated vehicle just for traveling around or just for camping or overlanding. So this has to do everything for me, which means it has to be very modular. I have to be able to take things in and out for work and then put in camping stuff rather quickly. And then the goal also is that it's set up really fast. So that's what we're going to show first, is how quick and easy it is to set up this camper. Now, I'm going to be narrating, so it's going to be a little bit slower than it could be, but let's jump right in. Okay, so obviously tailgate down, right? And then because I didn't have the fancy tailgate step, I've got this guy here made by Traxian. And if anyone is interested in that, let me know. I'll put a link in the description. But the nice thing about this is that for less than $100, you can buy this, and you have the ability to climb up right up into your tailgate or your camper pretty easily. So next thing we got to do is we got to take these clips, pull this little tab here, and these are lockable. Pull this down, okay? Now you've seen other campers like this, but you're going to notice that this one is unique in the fact that it's very, very quick to set up, and the quality is very high. And there's some other benefits that you're going to see. Here we go. Take this, push it up. In a moment, struts take over, and we're up. First thing you're going to notice, though, hard-sided. No tent fabric to blow in the breeze, no concern about any kind of water intrusion, at least not through the actual side material itself. Nothing is completely waterproof, but nonetheless, this material will be waterproof for the entire length of the material. It doesn't change, it's not like Gore-Tex, it's not a coating. It's completely waterproof, and it has its own gutter system, so even if you close it in the rain, you don't have to worry about opening it back up to let the water out or to reduce the moisture in there or mildew or anything like that. No, this water sheds on its own right down into a gutter system, and then it'll dry itself over the course of a short period of time. So we have a window here. It doesn't open. Up top, you're going to see a little later, we have a skylight and a fan. But that's it. Just like that. And already we have the main part of our camper is set up. So the next thing that we have to do then, we're going to take this, lift this up, okay, and we'll get a better glance inside of here. I'm not going to open this all the way because we have to next do the actual awning. And the reason why I didn't do the awning before is because, one, when the awning is all the way open, it blocks these latches and it interacts with that handle up there. So I'm trying to work on a better system for that, but hopefully we'll get there eventually as we work out the kinks. I just got this in the winter. I haven't even got to play with it that much ourselves. We've only slept in it once in the winter. And the OVS overlanding system 270 awning, I literally got that day before last. So, you know, we're for sure this is a brand new setup. So be patient with me, but go ahead and set this up. There's some little things that you have to do with this. Like, for instance, you really want to kind of take this guy and pull it over the back so that it's out of your way, and that's really helpful later on too. I'm trying to work out if there's a better way to do this, but sometimes it can get in the way. So next thing you're going to do is I like to undo the strap on the side, let that fall, this side too, and I do this one. And then when you close it, you do it in reverse order because it's just easier to work with the middle latch and then the side, all right? That drops down. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this guy and we're going to spin it around. Guy I bought this from, I got this one used, which means I saved quite a bit of money, but the guy I bought this from, whoops, that's one problem we have, right? Let me grab bungee. But the actual straps and things that you use to pull, he accidentally didn't give them to me, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a bungee here and stick that in here like this, and then walk around until I get those additional straps from him. Now, in a little while, you're going to see part of the problem here is the way this kind of ends up rubbing against this. But I'm wondering if, when this is open, do we have that same problem? So let's find out right now. Take this over top here, and maybe we can still open this, but that keeps that open. Okay, but we're not done, right? Because this also has the ability to open up all the way to the front, which is kind of cool because what we end up getting is the ability to have coverage all the way inside the vehicle. So when my wife gets out of the vehicle, she's still going to be able to have some shade, or if it's raining, she won't have to worry about that. So, okay, so pivot the camera, make sure you guys can see me okay. The next thing I'm going to do is just make sure that the end of that is latched in place. Untie the screw there. Find a better way to do this. I've been tying it, but then we just take the string, take this, go over my ground clearance. I'm only about 5'10". If you needed this to be higher, you can use the legs, which I put the rest of them in, but you have one leg here that drops down, which is nice. But the first thing is you don't need these legs unless it's particularly windy condition. These guys are very, very beefy. They're designed to stay up by themselves as long as you don't have really, really windy conditions. A breeze, no big deal, but if you're getting to a point where you got gusts of wind, I don't know, maybe in excess of, 15, 20 degrees, well then that's when you have a problem here. But if you need it higher, you just put the legs a little higher. Most of us are going to be able to stand under here. When you get a little closer to the actual camper itself, it's much taller. It's really just on the edges that you have to be a little bit concerned about that. Now, there's also additional zippers and different things like this. And what are these for? Well, if you wanted to attach an additional dwelling, you can zip that all the way around, and now you've got a completely enclosed setup. Most likely, we're not going to do that because that means additional setup. If we want to go for an excursion or just go grab something from the store when we're camping, or just go on a quick drive, or even just to get out quickly, now you got to get rid of all of that. So probably not going to do that. If anything, we would just have a pop top shelter that we can use if we need to have something that's completely secluded. But we don't really need that because, of course, we have the camper itself. So inside here is the next thing you're going to get a tour of. And why don't I pause the video there and we'll move on to the next step, okay? Okay, so here we are set up. We have the hard-sided camper up. You saw how easy that was. We'll do a quick walk around. Let's go this way first. So another nice thing about this hard-sided camper, which has the bottom component here. Now this is made by the same company. You can get them individually, but in my case, I really needed a truck cap for work and for play too. So just like that, you open those doors up, you've got those open, you got access to whatever you need in the bed. Now you're gonna see why that's so high in a moment, but let's go this way, right? Now forgive the mess, but one nice thing about the Ford Lightning that I got is that it came with vinyl seats, so very easy to clean. Still, it's a pretty well-appointed system here. You can uniquely perfect both for work and for play and for overlanding. You got this giant frunk in here. Right now, I've just got a vacuum. I got to clean this thing out a little bit. I've got an EcoFlow battery, which I'm actually going to be replacing with the Pecron E1000 LFP, which is a self-heating battery. More on that later. Inside of here, we have extra power. Okay, and underneath here we have even more storage. That's usually where I keep charging cables and things that I don't use all the time. You got hooks in there, and this can hold 400 liters worth of stuff. So what does that look like? Well, 400 liters is about 2 golf bags, or You could put multiple pieces of luggage in here, but also it can hold 400 pounds. So it's spacious, you can sit in there. Sometimes we cooked out of the front of that. All right, again, we mentioned that this is the Ford Lightning Pro. It's electric, which is really useful. This particular one cost about $35K. There's a phenomenal deal for any truck, let alone a Lightning or an electric one, which saves me quite a bit of gas. We put these on, these rock sliders. They're not perfect, but I just needed something to help some of our friends get into the vehicle and kind of work as a rock slider. At the moment, I have a leveling kit in, so it's about 3 inches taller, at least in the front, than it is in the back. We can still see that we don't have a whole lot of squat here, but I am considering taking that 3.5-inch lift out, mostly for aerodynamics and to increase range, especially with the bigger tires. So again, let's get a bit of a overarching view here. Okay, that's the setup. And that only took a matter of a couple of minutes despite all the talking I was doing, right? So what did we do? We popped the top up, we dropped the tailgate, we put the awning up, and in just a handful of minutes, we are in business. But here's the key thing. One, this is open up top, right? Which means that, of course, you can stand in here, and it's very, very tall. Okay, a 7-foot person can stand in here, no problem. And that's standing on top of my decked system. Right, so you know, obviously not all of you guys will have this. It depends on what your use case is. It's a good setup for me, but this is nice too because it helps my wife to be able to get up into the bed. Okay, and then of course we have storage for whatever we need. So very nice feature. You got storage on the sides here, you got places to tie things down, you still have access to the majority of your bed, tons of space, and you can still put a 2,000 pounds worth of payload on top, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, and then also the Ford Lightning in my case can hold 2,300 pounds of payload, which is pretty impressive, right? So one thing I missed on the outside, that is, okay, while we were distracted by this frunk, is that we have a giant solar system up here. So I put 400 watts of solar on top. Still have room to put kayaks or whatever else I need to put up there. But I need to rewire it because I think that they did it wrong, but 400 watts of solar should be plenty for camping. And obviously with the Lightning, you have as much power as you want, but in the efforts of not draining the battery too much, I'll be using a power system here. But one question that comes up is if you're really far out and you've got the standard range, which is the smaller battery pack, about 230 miles of total range, what do you do if you are too far from a charger? Now, that's a very rare occurrence. I just want to be clear about that, right? But if you were trying to go somewhere where it's hard to find chargers, where there's not a campsite, where there's no superchargers or level 2 chargers, what do you do, right? So here's my backup plan. I got the smallest and lightest 240 volt generator that I could find. This one is the WEN 6800. 6800 represents the surge watting, but the running watts is 5100 running watts. So what that means is you can run it at that all the time. That's about 80% of the surge watting, and so you don't have to worry about just doing like a half load. You can run it at that and it's going to be perfectly fine. This has the ability to charge the truck 240 volt up to 20 amps. Now the EVSE I have is only adjustable down to 16, so it goes from 16 to 24. 24 amps would be too high for this, but ultimately you can get about 5,000 watts of output charging. What does that mean for the Ford Lightning? Every hour you can add about 10 to 15 miles of range. Now, is that super fast? Of course not. It's not a supercharger. It's not as fast as the home charger that we have here, which allows me to actually be able to charge at about 9.6 kilowatts as long as we've only got one vehicle plugged in. So that's pretty fast, you know what I mean? But a lot of times my wife's plug-in hybrid Tucson is also plugged in, so the speed of charging is a little bit slower. But again, we're talking about a backup situation here if you were to run out of power out in the wild. So what I've done is I've got an adapter, and then I've got my NEMA 1450 attached there. That goes over here to a charger. The charger comes right out here, dangles down, and I plug it right in. So if we're going to be staying at campsite all day, our vehicle's staying, or whatever the case is, we can just juice up a little bit, put that thing farther away, or just leave it right here. As long as there's enough ventilation, there's no problem. I'm gonna probably do a separate review just of this, but there's a lot of things I like. In addition to the relative portability, the size is pretty convenient. I can lift it. It's a little hefty, but still it's liftable, it's doable, no problem. Has wheels, has a nice handle, but it also has a carbon monoxide detector, so you don't have to worry about there being any issues in here. I'm trying to figure out whether or not I can leave it in here without causing any danger if we have everything open. Like right now, when we're at campsite, all the doors are open. I'll have the skylight open. I'll probably have the fan on low. And then I've also got this port here, which is where the carburetor output is. So hopefully we won't have any issues whatsoever. But if we do, it's good to know that this has its own built-in sensor. Won't be an issue. It'll only be running during the day. And then as soon as we get to a good point where it's charged enough, or maybe it's just time to turn off the generator so that there's no disturbing of other people, well then great, turn it off. Make sure that we get enough airflow in here to replace it, and then we're good to go. So yeah, so there's more to show you in just a moment, so I'll be right back. All right, so I'm just testing the Pecron E100 LFP. I'm going to be replacing the EcoFlow one that I had, and I'll tell you why. The EcoFlow one does not have a battery heater of any kind. So the moment it got cold here in upstate New York, you know what happened? It just stopped working. It would discharge if there was any power in it, but I could not charge it back up. And so because of where we live, that's the reason why I'm switching to a different power station. So well, I'm excited though, because I just tested it to make sure that the solar panels are working. I've got 2 bifacial solar panels up there. It's not direct sunlight. I mean, it's decent, but you know, it's cloudy, it's through the trees and so on. But yeah, it's totally working. Let's see what kind of power we're inputting here. We're getting, yeah, with the solar panels set up in parallel, we're getting 162 watts. So I got no complaints about that. I know that in better conditions, it would be a bit better. And so now I'm just going to begin wiring it. Now, because these are bifacial panels, they should produce a little bit more. However, because of how low they are, I just don't think that they're going to perform as well as they would if they were leaning against something, because you know the point of bifacial panels is that they be able to reflect light from underneath. And so because of how flush they are with the actual top of the camper, I just think that, you know, it's not really going to be able to do that. But that being said, they're still efficient panels. They fit there perfectly. They're going to do what I need it to do, because for the most part, I'm really just using this to power a couple of things, right? The first thing is I'm using it to power my lighting system and fan system for the actual camper. So that just plugs in by means of 12 volt. You can see right here. So that's just gonna get plugged in and go right into a 12 volt outlet. Although I do wish it was XT60 or something, but it works, you know what I mean? It works. And then that will power the majority of the system here. And I'll use it to charge phones, and you know, we have a heated blanket up there and so on. So I really think this is gonna be plenty for that. I'd be surprised if we go through the power in one day. But the good thing is the moment we're driving again, we know that we'll have power. And because this is the Ford Lightning, if I ever really have so little solar that I can't really use it, well then I'll just plug it into one of the many outlets that we have. So this is the test experiment. This guy will probably be mounted probably here, I'm guessing. Maybe I'll just move this over a little bit, or I'll put it down below. I'm not really sure where I want to put it yet, but either way, I'll figure that part out in just a moment here. But yeah, it works great. I'm really impressed with this machine, considering the price, to have a 1,000 watt-hour battery that has self-heating, has the ability to output around 1,600 watts of power. I mean, seriously, this is an amazing deal. Yeah, so we'll do more on that later, but just to give you a glance, we've got a 20 amp out XT60, which is pretty impressive. And then of course we have our Braille port for 5 amp and 10 amp. Oh yeah, this is also going to be powering a 12 volt fridge, so I think this is going to be plenty. Then down here we've got a couple of regular USB-A, and then we've got USB-C, 100 watts, which is nice. You can run your laptop off of that. And then of course you've got our regular outlets here. It's funny that it has the actual little sideways guys there, because that means that it would potentially be able to output 20 amps. I'm not sure if I believe that, but. And then on this side, this is actually for output power, so you can either, or excuse me, you can connect the battery to this. Only to connect to the battery, which you can use many different batteries to do that, but they have their own bespoke battery. But if you wanted to use a 12-volt battery, you could do that too. And then of course we've got our AC input, which I think gives us the ability to charge it up to 800 watts of power. So yeah, that's it. That's where we are, and I'll continue to test this and let you guys know how it goes.